everybody. Welcome to College, the podcast. I'm Peg Keough. Today, I'm joined by one of our newest financial experts here at CAP, Melissa Stevens. She is the Associate Dean of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid at West Connecticut State University. Today, we're going to be talking all about the current climate in higher ed and also enrollment management. If that's a term that's new to you, you're going to want to stick around to learn about this and why it matters for your family. I am super excited today to be chatting with one of our newest experts. How long did it take, Melissa? It was like a
Almost a year.
solid. Yeah, I was
Almost
going
a
to
year.
say 6+ months of back and forth. And this woman that we're having today, truly, I've said to her before, she's superwoman. She's had so many different things on her plate at different times. I don't even know how she could entertain joining our team, but she did. So we're super, super excited. So I have Melissa Stevens here today. Like I said, she's our newest financial expert on our CAP team, and we're so happy to have her. Her other role that makes her superwoman is she's the Associate Dean of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid at Connecticut State University in Danbury. So welcome. Do you want to just say hi for a minute, Melissa?
Yes, thank you, Peg. And it has seemed like a forever to get here. It was a year ago. I'm at a conference that I met the amazing team at College Aid Pro and knew immediately that I wanted to be a part of their efforts. And it's completely aligned with everything that I do and that I stand for. So I'm super excited to finally be here. But hello to the rest of you. As Peg has shared, my name is Melissa Stevens, and I am currently serving as the Associate Dean of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid at a four-year public regional institution. I have over 30 years of experience in higher education, and my journey began as a student worker in the Office of Financial Aid, actually just a few years ago. And for the past 29 years, I have dedicated my career to serving students and families in the field of financial aid, holding nearly every position within the Office of Financial Aid, including more than a decade as the Director of Financial Aid. During my tenure at the four-year public institution that I'm at, my work has extended well beyond financial aid, and I have collaborated closely with academics in the Office of the Provost on accreditation matters, serving as a university senator in shared governance, and taking on leadership roles within our state and in our regional association. And in that capacity, I have served as vice president of the association, leading statewide training for financial aid administrators and higher education administrators, and then later as a president of that very association. I've also had the honor of serving as the NCAA Division III chair of the Financial Aid Committee, providing guidance and oversight on critical compliance and student athlete matters. Student success has always been at the heart of my work. I have been a faculty advisor and deeply engaged in student life, working directly with students and parents to navigate the college journey from the admission process through enrollment and persistence, and even into post-graduation stage of loan repayment work. More recently, I've extended my commitment to the classroom and have now added adjunct professor to my many lists of things that I'm doing. And I'm teaching a first-year experience course and supporting students in their academic and personal transition to college life. I've also shared my expertise widely, presenting at financial aid and enrollment management trainings at local, regional, and national levels. And I take great pride in the outreach and community engagement, ensuring that students and families not only understand how to navigate the college search aid process, but also how they feel supported through degree completion. And this commitment is really my why and the driving passion behind my career. In addition to my campus role, I also have served as a consultant to other institutions on financial aid and enrollment management matters. And most recently, I have now joined working alongside College Aid Pro as an expert, continuing my mission to expand access, guidance, and support to students and families like yourself.
So now everybody can see why I said superwoman. There we go, right there. And actually learned a couple things that I didn't know you were doing. So yeah, you can see why it's just awesome to have you on the team. You have so much breadth of experience in different areas. And like you said, the key thing with our experts is the first thing I look for is just alignment. Like we care about the same things. You said your why. Like I like to always say to parents, this is what gets me out of bed in the morning. Like it is. It's my
Absolutely.
why, right?
Yep.
And I think You and I and Cap are very aligned in that. So, all
Yes.
right. Well, thank you for all of that. So, as you mentioned a couple times, I said it in your title. People might not know about this whole concept because it's not brand new by any means, but it hasn't been around for decades. This concept of enrollment management at universities and colleges. Can you just explain what that is? Kind of speak to that.
Yeah. So, enrollment management, many times people just think of recruitment. It's how a school gets a student in their door. And enrollment management is so much more than that. It's really the strategic approach that universities and colleges like mine use to attract students, admit them, enroll them, and retain them. And more importantly, make sure that they get to the finish line. It's not just about admissions, it's the big picture plan that connects many parts of the school's operations, which include the recruitment and marketing piece, obviously reaching and engaging prospective students. It's the admissions part. How do we review applications and admit students and select them? It's the financial aid and scholarship component. How do we help make our education affordable and help families to understand their costs, both their direct costs and indirect costs? And then there's student success and retention. How do we support the students that we have outwardly recruited, admitted, provided financial aid for, and now they're here? How are we supporting those students after they enroll to ensure that they not only are reach graduation, but have a plentiful experience on our campuses? And then enrollment management also includes a big part of that is data and strategy. How do we use data to make informed decisions about the types of students we're recruiting, how many students we can admit and afford to support, and how do we support them? So, in other words, enrollment management is how a school plans for and supports the full student journey from inquiry to graduation.
Yeah. So that's a lot. And I always excuse me, I always mention this when we're on webinars, but why should parents even care about this? Or what pieces of it should they care about? What pieces of it should they understand? Then how does it, it's going to differ from school to school, obviously.
Yeah. So enrollment management of an institution is so important for families to understand in helping them to make informed choices because it really tells a story about how that particular institution or school takes seriously student success. And here's really why it matters. First and foremost, there's transparency in the process. Families who understand enrollment management know what to expect in terms of the admissions timelines, the application process, the financial aid process, communication, and support. It provides information to families about financial clarity. A well managed enrollment process ensures financial aid and scholarship opportunities are made clear to families, helping families to plan and then avoid any surprises. It's also evidence of an institution's stability. Strong enrollment management practices show that a school is planning carefully for its future, which means that they could provide the resources and programs and to support to not just the students, but also the families. And then it also speaks to the institution's student centered approach. Schools that prioritize enrollment management often have robust advising, career planning, and retention efforts in place to support your students. This is a sign that they care about students' long term success and not just getting them through the door. It also provides for empowered decision making. Knowing how a school manages enrollment helps prospective students ask the right questions about class sizes, program availability, affordability, and graduation support so that they can choose the best fit. Think of enrollment management as the engine behind the scenes that ensures that college or university is organized, student focused, and financially healthy. For families, understanding this gives them the confidence that their investment of both time and money is going to lead to strong outcomes for their student.
So if somebody, families visiting campus or starting to look at a school and reach out, like I use the term business plan all the time, and that's a little bit, I think, more focused. I'm talking more about the financial aid piece. How do
Yep.
they meet need? How do they give merit? Yada yada, that piece. So that's kind of a subset of this whole thing. But if a family, parents are listening and saying, all right, I hear you, Melissa, how do we discern some of these things when we're on campus? Like, are there a
Yeah.
few? pieces of advice around that.
Yep. So much of this information you will find in how an institution markets itself and in their messaging. You can also find clues on their social media pages, right? Seeing how students are engaged and supported and what resources they're providing tell the story in and of itself for you to find right there at your fingertips. You no longer necessarily have to go to a website to find these things, although institutions all have websites that you can go to. But many institutions have a plethora of social media sites that are often driven by students themselves, like in student groups and organizations. And by looking at that, you can see the student engagement. You can hear the students' stories. One of the best things that you can do is to ask students what their experience has been on that campus. So many institutions offer tours on campus that are offered by student ambassadors, which are often students who are living and breathing in that space of that institution. And they're very honest about their experiences, both good and bad. So don't not take advantage of that opportunity. When you're going to open houses and you're going around these many tables, don't just look at the academics and the programs that they're offering. Look at the outside row of the student support services. What sort of advisement do students get? What sort of do they have success teams at our institution when a student is accepted? We build a success team around that student that's specific to their major or their interest. And they are aligned immediately upon acceptance with an advisor for academics and program, with a financial aid counselor, and with a peer mentor, with someone who's going to align with them and be a resource to them when they don't want to talk to an old fogey like me and they'd rather talk to someone else. So ask those questions when you're going on tours. How do you support students outside the classroom? What does student life look like? What sort of counseling resources do you have? Do you have an accessibility office for students who may need accommodations? Do you have tutoring services? All of those things many times mean more to a student's success or ability to succeed at an institution than does the fact that they offered the academic program at the right price point that you were looking for.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of the whole enchilada. Like I used to when I took my 2, I would they didn't wanna do it, but I would say just even like, cause my daughter was a student ambassador at JMU, and she was like, "Well, we can say some stuff, but we can't, if somebody asks about social stuff, you can't." There's
Yeah.
certain things they couldn't do. I mean, they were very highly trained, and she didn't get paid, and she worked like a dog, but she loved it. I mean, it was kinda like a sorority. They were
Yep.
so tight. This group of ambassadors, it was very hard to become one. But also, just like to your point, you could just ask you're walking around campus, just ask a random student on the quad, "Hey, what are the weekends like here?" Just all the different type of stuff. "Do you like your professors? Are they open if you have questions?" All those kind of things that, to your point, you're not gonna see on a website, and the kids are gonna be honest. If the kid is kinda rude and doesn't wanna stop and talk to you, well, that doesn't mean all the kids are like that, but it's a data
Right.
point, try again.
Yeah.
I always said, go sit if you can visit. I mean, I always tell parents, before you put the money down, your child should visit. I don't know that kids need to visit every campus, my 2
Right.
didn't, before they applied, because that gets really expensive, but also, sitting in a class, go up and talk to the prof after if you can. All these things that, to your point, are part of the picture. Of course, affordability and do they have the major you want and how good is that program? All that stuff matters. But I think that's what people mostly focus on. And we're trying to get more and more to focus on affordability.
Yeah.
But there's even more. And now is that's a positive of social media is it's not just looking at the website and doing the virtual
Right.
tour. There's so much out there. And the website's kind of static and it's
Yeah.
not dynamic like to
Yep.
your point, social media could be, and you can just find out a lot of stuff. And then the good thing about interacting and all that is then you're demonstrating interest, which is not a bad
Absolutely.
thing for admission, shows you're
Yeah.
interested in the college.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that so many times when we talk to students or families after they've enrolled at our institution, and we don't just recruit a student, we're recruiting the family, right? We all understand that these days. So, but when we do that and we'll ask, what was it that made you choose us? And so many times it is not about the academic program. That was the initial interest, right? The fact that you offered a program that I might be interested in, and maybe you were the proper price point for us, whatever that might be. But their final decision oftentimes was made based on an interaction that they had with someone. It had nothing to do with how big or beautiful a building was. It had nothing to do with how well manicured our lawn was or not, or whether or not we had weeds in our garden. But it really had to do with, oh, well, the student on our tour was so engaging and seemed so excited about it. Or when I spoke to the coach really made me feel like at home. Or when I spoke to some of the other classmates or your current students, they were so excited and that said something to me. And so for many of our students, it's the actual connection that they feel to the institution that not only is going to get them to come, but to stay, right? So many students, we know the transfer rates of students, but so many times students will choose an institution for another reason other than fit, and they don't last. And after a few months, they're calling home or they want to go home on the weekends or they're not returning the next semester because they didn't feel connected. And that's why understanding enrollment management and understanding those other pieces outside of academics or price point really matter for a student to not just get into the school, but to be successful there and to end in completion and have a positive experience.
Yeah, yeah, and the way you're describing it, it's not even something that a family has to find. If the school is really actively trying to make connection, they're going to be doing, like you said, you admit a student, you're all over that student. Hey, here's your advisor, here's your mentor. Like, that's awesome. Other schools won't do that. And as a family, you'll see that difference. And it makes total sense because we're all
Yeah.
relationship driven.
Yeah. And
That's
listen,
really yeah, and you keep saying retention. Speak to that a little bit because I don't even think parents even think about, like, that's a big thing at colleges and universities that I don't
yeah.
think families really think about.
Yeah. So retention is basically that your students enrolled at an institution, started, you dropped them off, you cried your tears, right? And they got unpacked and then they go through the semester. They may have called you a few times, talked about all the things they don't like, and then they don't return. Right. And so now you've made an investment, whether you took it out of your savings or you had to take out loans, both you and the student. There was an investment of time of finding that school. There was money spent. And now the student's not going back. Simply because there was no connection or they weren't happy for another reason. And listen, change is okay. And so, what I'll say to parents is so many parents are afraid that their child's not going to finish, or when the child makes that phone call home and says, you know what, I don't like accounting. I'm now going to do justice and law, AKA that was me. It's okay. It's okay that your student, and the whole point of going to college in these 4 years is not just to get a job at the end. Yes, that's part of it. But bigger part of it is the growth. You are giving your students a gift of 4 years of additional growth. And part of that growth means change, right? You don't want to grow and be the same. And so for our students, many times they'll come in and they're like, this is what I want to do. I know I'm going to do this. I'm going to be an accountant. I did so well with it in high school. And then suddenly you take your first accounting course and you're like, what the heck is this? And your roommate might be taking a really cool major and talking all about the cool experiments they're doing in biology and the things are blowing up and the frogs are cutting open and all the things. And that might sound really exciting and appealing to you. And so you decide to take a bio course and suddenly you want to become a bio major. And for families, sometimes that's very difficult for them to handle. But I want to assure you that it's part of the process, it's part of the growth. And that also then leads me to say something else is understand that you want to give yourself space to grow, but that also means you have to choose an institution that will allow you to change and be flexible. So many
Yeah.
times students will choose an institution. I know I'm going on a tangent here and I apologize, but so
No,
many
no,
times
that's
students
what this
will
is
go
for.
on a tangent, will make a decision on a school. Let's just say they're going to pick a business school, and the only thing this school offers is business. Well, if you change your mind in a year, and we know the statistics, I don't have them off the top of my head, but the percentage of students that change their major and how many times they change it within an academic career is many. So if you do that and you suddenly want to go to bio or psychology, you can't. You can't do it at that institution, right? Also, it limits your exposure. when you're going to an institution that's very fine tuned in terms of what they offer. So if you're potentially unsure of your career path or your school path, then make sure you choose an institution that offers you variability and flexibility to pivot and change as you grow and learn and are exposed to other things. And going back to enrollment management, because I tend to go off on tangents, going back to enrollment management, what enrollment management is knowing that, listen, as a parent, I'm a parent of two college grads now. My youngest son is going back for a second degree, so I'm still a college mom, I guess. But as a college parent of two students, the hardest thing for us to do is drop your baby off at school, right? And whether it's because they're moving there or they're starting, it's a scary thing. It's the first time that kind of like your physical heart is outside of your body walking the streets without you there every single day to protect it. And that's a scary time. So, enrollment management and how an institution develops their enrollment management plan and the efforts they put into it let you know that your child's going to be taken care of and how well they are. So, for a parent, that is why enrollment management as a thing is so important for you to understand in the institutions that you are choosing. How well is your son or daughter going to be taken care of and looked after in your absence on their academic journey? And that's essentially what enrollment management is and why it's important to you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, I just think of my two that were their beginning experience. Their schools were decently different, but their beginning experiences when we were still there, like dropping them were very, very different. Like the orientation at one versus the other. And I think I would just say, because like you, I've had two and they're both done, but they were different kids. I knew my son was gonna be fine at this bigger university. It was for the first month, he was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to find my friends," and everybody's with their high school friends, which I didn't anticipate because I went to a private school, so we didn't that's a whole nother podcast that we screwed up on that one and didn't give him the best guidance because we just didn't think, but I knew he'd be fine. Like, I just knew my kid, and all of you listening, you know your kids, right? So that's why I always say it's not like, oh, a school does this and you notice it through enrollment management. Well, that means that's going to be great for every kid. It might not even be needed for every student. So it really becomes, where does your child belong? Like, I love to use the word thrive. And that's
Yeah.
what I focused on with my two. I didn't focus on rankings. It was like, also my daughter, she went to JMU, James Madison, and I to this day, I've never been to a campus where I felt like the people were happier. Like everybody was happy.
Yep.
Everybody held the
Yep.
door, from the kids to it was just, and I grew up in Jersey, so I knew JMU. A lot of my friends went there. I'd never been on the campus. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's just this happiness factor here. And it was just the place for my kid, to the point we didn't even look at other schools that she got into because of affordability and just because you love this. Why would you even look past it? So
Right.
I think I'm going on a little tangent here, but I think it's important for parents to understand that it's not about where the other kids are going. It's not about the rankings. It's really where, and you mentioned a couple times, Melissa, it's like, this is where your child, hopefully it's going to be the next 4 years. It's going to be their home for the next 4 years. They're going to feel it. They're going to
Yep.
know most of the time. Most kids are, and it could be something like, I don't even like the buildings here. I don't feel good about it. They're kids. They're kids. I was 17 when I went to college. It was totally immature, it just, but you kind of know where you think you're going to fit, and it doesn't mean you're not going to transfer, and it's a definite, but all of this detail, I mean, I've learned stuff every time I have guests on. I love it because I thought, okay, I understand all the nuts and bolts of enrollment management, but you've mentioned some stuff that I didn't even know you guys would put under that umbrella, that
Yep.
it's really everything. So
And our
I think
students
yeah, no
these
doubt.
too have access to so much information because of social media. So the students that we serve and the students that we raise are very well informed students. They know the options out there. They know that there's a bigger and smaller, and that this school offers this and this one doesn't, and this one has this cool thing. They're very informed because they have access. And that's a very different type of student than you or I probably were going through the college process. You only knew of a college because either a family member went there by chance, if you weren't first gen, or what was closest to you, or maybe you saw a commercial or a flyer in your guidance counselor's office. That's how you were exposed. Now, students with social media have access to institutions across the world, right? Like they're seeing all these things that we didn't have access to. So, and students know. So I've had so many times families come in like at the end of orientation or rather an open house or an accepted student stay event, and they'll bring their student in and they'll say, I really need you to talk to them and convince them to come here. I really want you, tell your story. I have a story at my institution that I tell. And so they want me to convince their student that we are the choice for them. And I oftentimes say to the family, I can't do that. Your student knows best whether or not they feel connected or that they fit here. That could be that someone said hello to them in the quad or they didn't, or that they saw someone who maybe had something on that they really liked and they felt connected to that person, or someone held the door for them or they didn't, or the building was cool, right? Like it could be anything. You're absolutely right. We need to listen to the students because in the end, it's their experience, but it's an all encompassing thing. It's not just what they want, it's what you can afford, what's realistic, what's a good fit, what, school offers them the size that they like and the experience that they want. And it's an all in thing. It's not just a one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So they can start online with searching certain
Yeah.
data points, but then it's to your point going deeper. I think that's a great wrap up of like enrollment management and why it matters. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please follow us, share the show, or maybe even send it to a parent or a counselor who would enjoy it. I'm your host, Peg Keough, and I was joined by Melissa Stevens, one of our CAP financial experts and the Associate Dean of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid at West Connecticut State University. This episode was produced by Eileen Campbell. We'll see you back here next